Wicked problems are highly complex problems. They are unstructured, open-ended, they are multidimensional, systemic, and may have no known solution. In many ways, we can think about wicked problems as essentially dysfunctionalities within a complex system. Where we have the complex system of the human body, we have the wicked problem of healthcare. Where we have economies, we have the wicked problem of poverty. And where we have the internet, we have cybercrime. The concept of a wicked problem first derives from social planning and political science. Horst Rittel and Melvin Weber formally described the concept of wicked problems back in the 70s, contrasting it with tame, solvable problems. So let's talk about some of these tame problems first. Examples of tame problems might be solving a jigsaw puzzle, finding the shortest route from A to B on a map, or repairing a computer. These standard problems share a number of features in common. Firstly, they have a clear boundary. There is a well-defined and stable problem statement, which has a defined stopping point, that is, when the solution is reached. It is relatively simple to say what is part of the problem and what is not. Next, there are a finite number of elements interacting, and given enough analysis, we can fully understand the system, the drivers within the system, and the causes and effects. Think about fixing a car. It may be complicated, but there is a manual somewhere where all the parts and interactions within the car can be known. With tame problems, there are typically widely shared values and beliefs to the nature of the problem. Thus it becomes a technical problem, where there is a solution that can be objectively evaluated as right or wrong. And lastly, we're dealing with a static problem. It does not change over time. Think of fixing a light bulb. The actual problem stays the same throughout the process. Tame problems can be standardized. That is, they belong to a class of similar problems, which can all be solved in a similar way. And thus, we've developed a powerful and standardized set of methods within mathematics and engineering for solving tame problems, even when they're very complicated. Wicked problems are qualitatively different from tame problems, largely due to the fact that we're dealing with open systems instead of closed ones. Climate change is one of the best examples of a wicked problem, as is the challenge of global governance or multiculturalism. All of these challenges have a number of features that make them highly complex and non-amenable to our traditional approach in which problems are defined, analyzed, and solved in sequential steps. Firstly, because we're dealing with open systems, they are often unbounded in space and time. They cross disciplines, borders, and departments, making them very difficult to structure. You will often hear the word messy used by people when they're talking about wicked problems. They are also open in scope. The more you probe into the problem space, the more it expands into different dimensions. Unlike our tame problems, these wicked problems have no stopping rule. Terrorism might be an example of this. It slips through the fingers of powerful governments, and searching for its root cause will take you on an open-ended exploration of many different social, cultural, political, and economic dimensions. Wicked problems are multidimensional. Not only are they interconnected on many scales from the micro to the macro, they are also composed of multiple different social, economic, technical, and environmental factors. There is no one standardized global solution that fits all. Coupled with this is the fact that these problems involve a strong cultural dimension. They are deeply qualitative, involving human values and deeply entrenched social-political dynamics. Again, climate change is a good example, as is systemic political deadlock. Next, these problems have many deep interconnections and interdependencies. The systems we're dealing with in these wicked problems are intricately interconnected, interdependent, and non-linear. The problem of tackling poverty might be an example of this. It is strongly interconnected with many different areas, from economic inequality to racism to public services and so on. With these highly integrated problems, when you try to pull on one part, you end up getting the whole thing. Lastly, complex problems are dynamic. They evolve over time. Events are continuously changing. Problems and solutions are entwined as they co-evolve with the definition of the problem itself also evolving. Coupled to this is the fact that the different components are often autonomous and adapting according to their own incentives and local environment, with limited central authority. The challenge of global governance is a good example of this, where authority to act still resides on the national level, and thus the international political environment is a product of the continuously evolving local level interactions and adaptations. Overcoming this to find global consensus and coordination is proving very difficult. In response to the intimidating nature of wicked problems, many people feel overwhelmed and respond with denial to the problem or resignation and determinism, resulting in inertia. Another typical response is to try to turn a complex problem into a simple one in a number of different ways, such as describing a related problem or sub-problem that you can solve and declare that that is the problem, or creating objective metrics by which to measure the solution's success, with whatever is not measured being free to absorb the real problem. That is to say, just shifting the problem from one place to another, which is very easy given the scale of the problem. Attempting to tame a wicked problem in this way, whilst appealing in the short run, will clearly fail in the long run. The wicked problem will reassert itself, perhaps in a different form, or worse, the tamed solution may exacerbate the problem. Truly tackling complex problems requires systems thinking to see the bigger picture and to integrate the many different perspectives and dimensions to the problem. By seeing the system as a whole, we can get a real idea of the true nexus that makes up the core constraints at the heart of the problem. We need to gain a fundamental perspective that encapsulates the many diametrically opposed views, and then work backwards to be able to contextualize the diverse perspectives on the problem. Wicked problems involve social complexity, and thus we need to develop a platform for building a common understanding of the problem. This means being able to communicate the complexity of the problem in a way that is accessible to all, creating a paradigm within which people can integrate their own contexts and meanings. Tackling these problems requires a strong infrastructure of trust and collaboration to overcome the need for a long-term, sustained investment where there is a lack of short-term incentives. Analysis of the stakeholders and the power dynamics surrounding the situation are critical to successfully designing stakeholder collaboration. Empathy and active listening are required to be able to effectively map out the diverse set of views and opinions that we need to integrate. Finally, having created a platform for the co-creation of solutions, we need an iterative, experimental approach to develop the project due to the co-evolutionary nature of problems and solutions. And this is where we'll pick up in the next section, where we'll be talking about agile project development.